Reverend Stratton, how you doing today?
Just fine, Deacon. Are we going to pass the plate and take collections this morning?
Turn myself up. Good deal. Stand by. We'll be going here shortly. You need anything, John? Are you good?
See a Porsche Turbo, several $1 million. Other than that, I'm fine.
What color?
A Carmine red.
Okay.
Well,
Wayne will work on that.
If you pass that plate, then about the only thing you're gonna get out of me is the fuzz out of my pockets.
Fuzz may have a value.
Good morning, everyone, and all that's online even. First, wanted to say that Stephanie's in the back of the room selling signs like this, as well as name tags. She does us an awesome job. And like she said, at a discount. So if you order today, I'll go pick them up and bring them to our next meeting. Yay. So today, let's start with today's program. John, would Mark like to say a little bit about John and what?
I would be happy. Oh, I got Mike here along. Thank you, sir. John Stratton is our West Gulf ARRL Division Director, and I think I even got all that stuff correct. Maybe not in the right order. And the he's been involved in this probably 4 or 5 years. He's going to talk hopefully about maybe something that's coming up at an upcoming board meeting. We are so happy to have him on board for today's meeting. Questions are allowed. Mark says no gripes. Now there's plenty of gripes. There's lots of, you can happily gripe until maybe next week this time. However, John, we wish to welcome you to the Big Scars, and let me hit the record button here so we can put this up for posterity so that yes, so that after next week when he doesn't come back from Connecticut, we have something to remember him by. So, John Stratton, welcome to Scars.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, everyone, for inviting me.
And I'll say the floor is yours.
In light of the fact that there's been a lot of discussion about what's coming up at the board meeting, it might be, I'll tell you anything you want, but we might want to start with, are there any particular questions from the group as to what is pending before the board meeting or any other issues? Because as a lawyer, I can talk forever, but I'm concerned with what is of interest to this group today.
That's a good idea. We got Mark Clayton running around here that's gonna
I mean,
explain
you
stuff.
still allow Mark Clayton in the room?
Well, he paid extra, so we let him in this time.
Okay.
Yeah. Money talks.
Oh, more volume, Mark. Anybody got a question? They're all looking at, we got a smile on their face at the moment, John. So
I think a good thing is we got the two big motions that are coming up. The questions I've heard already this morning involve how much probabilities of the QST repair bill might be, and then as the guys last week in Dakota called it, Proposition 46, which is the one talking about transparency or toe the line or whatever word you want to put on it. Those are probably the two biggies that I've heard.
I'll do the QST first, and we ought to, Mark, before we get through, mention the legislative program too, because that's important. Okay, a little background on how the board works, and that will explain something about these motions. by the Articles of Association, which is the document that creates the league and binds it to Connecticut law. The board of directors is required to meet twice a year. They can meet more often, but it is required to meet at least twice. The meeting in January is called the annual meeting. The meeting in July is called the second meeting. I didn't write that. It dates back 100 years. Before a meeting of the board, I'll back up. There are 3 standing committees that are created by the bylaws. The Programs and Services Committee, the Administration and Finance Committee, and the more recent Emergency Communications and Field Services Committee. These committees are supposed to meet during the year to discuss matters that are within the grant of authority to them, and then come to the board and make recommendations regarding matters that need to be improved, changed, or deleted. The Administration and Finance Committee is different in that its authority is limited to reviewing financial matters, not necessarily creating them. But out of the A&F meetings, there is also a proposed budget. That budget is worked up in conjunction with the CEO and other employees at headquarters, and is a recommended budget for the coming year. Those documents are, before they're passed, they're regarded financially confidential. But that is a major matter that comes before every board meeting in January. It's coming before this one. We can get into part of that later. But if you as a director wish to file a motion, you may do so on any subject. Those are referred to as director's motions. And if you look at the agenda that's posted on the website, the last thing taken up in the meeting would be the director's motions. If you look at the agenda, it goes down a regular order. The agenda looks the same for every meeting. What fits within the different categories changes dramatically. But it goes through reports from all the standing committees, all of the officers. Then you get to, if there are any questions regarding those reports, any member of the board may pull that report, which means that rather than approving those reports by acclamation, that report or that committee's report will be discussed in more detail. Those committees may propose motions or matters to be considered by the board. You go through, once you go through those reports, you look at the reports of the standing committees. Do those standing committees have recommendations or motions? And A&F always has a motion in general meeting to approve the budget. And then you'll work your way down to the director's motions. Under the Articles of Association and the bylaws, if you wish to amend an existing bylaw, you have 2 possible vote counts. If you submit the bylaw to the board at least 30 days before the meeting, it requires 10 votes to approve it. If you do it in less than 30 days, it requires 12. A complication arises if Wayne, who is going to donate the funds in his pocket to us, were to file a motion out 30 days in advance, and the motion comes before the board and it's amended on the floor, there is substantial disagreement within the board as to whether or not that constitutes a new motion and requires 12. Generally, it's accepted it does require 12, which is usually fatal. Just trying to get 12 people to agree most of the time is difficult. But that's just the procedure. The motions that have been disclosed as of last evening are just the ones we're about to talk about. There are more motions that will come and be filed. Those motions have not yet appeared in what's known as the board effect document. These are posted online for the board, to all the members of the board to see, but as of last night, there weren't any new motions other than ones we're going to talk about. You can ask me why later, but I think their motions are being withheld because some people may not want them discussed. But let's talk about the motion to honor unexpired membership commitments. You'll note if you look at it, There are 5 people moving for passage, and it's been seconded by 4. When motions are filed, it's usually one person, one director is the moving person, and then you must have at least 1 second. The directors who are behind this motion feel so strongly about it, they each asked to have themselves listed as a mover, the co-sponsor of the motion. That's the reason you see Mr. Familio, Mr. Baker, Mr. Ritz on the motion as movers as well as seconds. In the July meeting, by minute 19 and minute 20, the due structure was changed. Minute 19 raised the dues from $49 to $59. That has caused angst in certain quarters, but the reality is it was overdue. We hadn't really raised the dues in a very long time. The dues represent 47 to 48% of the operating revenue for the organization. So the dues by themselves do not pay for what the league needs to do, but it's an important part. The $10 increase, I have no objection to it. Didn't at the time. You'll note that if you read the minutes, by the way, the minutes of every board meeting are posted on the ARL website. Search for minutes, and you can go down by year and see all the minutes. The West Gulf voted against the increase of the dues to $10. We voted against it, not because we didn't think $10 was good, but because the $10 was tied to what is now known as minute 20, and that is the charging of $25 for a copy of printed QST. It was my opinion then, remains my opinion, that due to the financial situation of the league, which we can discuss in detail, that changes were needed to be made. But I didn't believe, and neither did the others who voted against the increase to $25 for QST, did not believe that, one, the case had been adequately made for that nature or that type of change. All prior discussions during the early part of the year were about maybe a $10 charge for QST. And then at the last minute, in terms of what the board knew, it became a $25 charge. And without adequate financial information behind it, which we had not seen at the time, we did not believe that was reasonable. My concern is the concern I've had forever with the league. This is a membership organization. It's not my organization. It's not Mark's, either Mark Clayton or Klein. But if it is a membership organization, that means those of you, even if your dues only pay 47, 48% operating expenses, the league exists for the benefit of amateur radio, which means everyone in the room and on the screen. If the people you elect are proposing to do something, we ought to be able, which we'll talk a little bit later, and willing to share with you why we're doing it. Maybe we're right, maybe we're wrong. You may disagree. You may think we walk on water, which, keep in mind, the water is standing on concrete, so we got solid support. But the first disagreement I had with the CEO when I came on the board as the vice director in January of 2011 was about this. An issue came up, and it was an internal mistake. No one intended for the mistake to occur. And then there was a great deal of dissatisfaction with the members. And I said, look, tell them why. It's just a mistake. We're going to fix it. Some refused. There was an intense, nasty discussion, actually. But that's been the policy of the league. It defaults to not disclosing why things happen, why things are being done. The fact that we would disclose that we're doing any particular action may not be proved by that. But my view is that there's almost nothing that we do that cannot be disclosed. Matters regarding employees, relationship with vendors, certain legislative actions. These are things that have to stay within the organization and cannot be publicly disclosed. But the reasons behind what we do, why we think we need to make changes, that is something that each of you should know. That is not the predominant view, which we'll talk about that with minute 46 in a minute, the bylaw 46. But that was the reason that we voted, the West Gulf, along with some others, voted against the $25 change, because it had not been adequately discussed with the members. If it had been, would it have changed the financial necessity of making a change? Not necessarily. But a significant theme running through the complaints that I'm receiving as director from the members is that you didn't tell us. We didn't know. Why did you do this? Why is it fair? So that's an unnecessary conversation if we'd done this in a different manner. But the motion itself, motion to honor unexpired membership commitments, goes to a more fundamental problem with regard to changing not just the due structure, but charging for QST. If you look at the motion, it's posted online at the West Gulf website. And I sent an email out. If you'll get an email, you can find it. If not, Mark, can we post that later again just for the club so they can get to that?
Yeah, we will.
Okay. If you look at it, you'll find an exhibit. The exhibit is the application for membership that was in existence prior to July of 2023. That membership application clearly states that if you renew on an annual basis, or if you enter a 3-year membership, you were promised QST by standard mail. The moment you signed that agreement, the moment the league took your money, that's a contract under law. It's also a moral commitment, I believe, to the members. If we promise we're going to do it, we should keep the promise. There is a more fundamental problem if you look at that motion. It references Article of Association 11. And it's very clearly, because it was designed to protect the members, it says that the board of directors shall not terminate or reduce the rights of any member except for the lapse of termination of a condition now required. If you remove QST from an annual membership that has not expired, or remove the right to receive printed QST from a 3-year membership that has not expired, it is my interpretation, others on the board may disagree, that is a termination or reduction of the rights of the member pursuant to that agreement. We are not supposed to violate the Articles of Association. If we do so, we are at risk as an organization that a member or someone may bring an action against us to enforce it. We don't need that type of litigation. If the contract is breached, which is my view that they were, that also creates a right to the members. Now, the board said in July that if you were upset, any member is upset because you didn't get your QST when your membership had not expired, you can have your money back. Well, that's an offer. If a member accepts it, that would terminate the contractual arrangement. It's fair to work out a settlement. But there are those who didn't believe or do not now believe that's fair or reasonable. And I'm not the only one who holds this view. This was an intensely debated matter before the July board meeting. Rick Roderick, the president, actually has the same view I do. He argued within the A&F committee strenuously that this should not be done. This not being done was do not take QST away from the unexpired annual or 3-year memberships, because it's not only a contractual commitment, it's a promise that goes, he and I think, beyond what's written on paper. But his view and mine did not pass in the July meeting. So the motion is designed to fix that problem. Will it pass? Mark, I think you asked the question of what's probability of passage. Based on a conversation I had with Rick within the last few days, unfortunately, it may not pass. There are a group within the board that he believes, and I don't disagree with him, are dead set on not changing what was done in July. Whether you argue it was for financial reasons or any other reason, I don't think that matters. What are the finances of the league? If you were to argue that if we were to honor the 3-year unexpired contracts and annual memberships, would it have a financial impact? Sure. Is it going to cause the league to fold up and send you a thank you note and tell you we'll be back in the next century? No, it's not. we have substantial reserves. They're not unlimited, but we have substantial reserves. And I have yet to see any financial information that would argue that honoring these contracts would be sufficiently adverse to us financially that it would have to be reconsidered. I have an open mind, but I haven't seen that information. So the honest answer to you is it should pass. It's the right thing to do. Legally, we have an issue. No one has yet initiated a lawsuit against the league. That we do not want to happen, and I'm not trying to encourage it. I'm just telling you we're at risk. But based upon the recent conversations, it may fail. Unfortunately, it may. Hopefully, it will not. Hopefully, that the rest of the board will consider that we can't afford to do the right thing. Now, again, if anyone who has QST on 3-year or is entitled to it based on a 3-year membership or an annual, if you'd rather take the money back and terminate your membership, you're entitled to do that as a member. I don't want to see us losing members. I don't think that's a reasonable resolution. If Wayne, because he only has fuzz in his pocket, says I'm offended and I want my money back, well, okay, that satisfies the contractual issue. But we lose Wayne as a member. I want to keep Wayne and his fuzz as a member. There's only one organization in the country that is officially supposed to be dedicated to keeping amateur radio alive, and it's the American Radio Relay League. Even though any one of us as members or as directors may disagree with the path chosen, it's the only bicycle we got. There have been discussions, they're running discussion now around the country about people forming a different separate organization. They might. If they were to do so, it may be a major effort to raise as much money as the league has and build up the resources it has. Would it result in a division of support? Yes. Would it benefit amateur radio? I'm not going to tell you it would. I haven't seen one of those organizations form yet. It's just talk. But the problem with the talk is that if it happens and a major block of members move, then we would have 2 organizations that would be relatively ineffective because of their size. So my concern is I don't want to lose members. I don't want people taking their money back. I want to keep them. And if we have to take a small financial loss, or even a significant one, to honor our promises to members, that's the reason this motion is on the table. The motion will not be withdrawn. It will go before the board. It'll come in as a director's motion. The question you might want to ask is, who votes for it and who votes against it? Under Robert's Rules of Order, if a matter is placed before the board may pass it by voice vote. How many ayes, how many nays? Or it may be addressed on a roll call vote, which means exactly that. You will walk down the directors. How does the Atlantic Division vote? How does the Central Division vote? Everyone votes and it's recorded by name and division. So you're on the record. I think that's a reasonable way for this board to operate, or any board to operate. If we're going to take an action, or we're not going to take it, then the members ought to know what we did. In the July meeting, a serious error, in my view, was made that is not in the interest of the members. It supports, unfortunately, a group within the organization that believes in secrecy. Prior to the July meeting, if Lloyd Colston wanted to have a roll call vote, all Lloyd had to do in the boardroom is go, Mr. President, I request a roll call vote. Automatic, no dissent. Under a motion passed at the July board meeting, now in order for Lloyd to be able to call for a roll call vote, he's going to have to give both Marks, Chris and Wayne, and probably Lee, to go along with him and say, hey, we want a roll call vote. They now have imposed a 5-member requirement. If you can't get 5 directors to agree to vote for a roll call vote, you don't get one. That makes no sense. And it conceals, or it permits the concealment of how people vote. One of the biggest disagreements and dissatisfactions in July 17, which we'll talk about, I'm sorry, in the year 2017, was over a code of conduct. It was called something else, and I'm shortening the name. It's about 10 words long. Passed in January of 2017 by the board of directors. Within that document, it specifically under Section 8 prohibited Lloyd and the 2 marks, John, Lee, Wayne, from telling you as members how, as directors, we have voted. It also prohibited us from telling you how the other directors voted. That resulted in 2017 in an enormous outrage amongst the members. What they did in the summer by making it difficult to obtain a roll call vote is a subset of that. The discussion regarding the passage of that, I wasn't in the room, but I've talked to the directors who were, was intense. The excuse given by a director as to why they were trying to limit roll call votes or make it difficult to obtain a roll call vote was that if we do that, the members will know how we voted. It could be used against us. I'm paraphrasing what I said because I don't have the exact words, but the sentiment expressed was, if our members, my members, want to know how I voted, they can call me. I'll tell them. I'm sorry, that's a member shouldn't have to chase Lloyd down as a director and go, Lloyd, what do you do? Because what's going to happen if Lloyd says, I'm not going to tell you. The minutes of the meeting are supposed to show what we did. That decision to make it difficult to obtain roll call votes was not in the interest of the organization. It's not in the interest of the members. But at the moment, it's the standing rule. So when this motion, the motion to honor unexpired membership commitments comes up, we are going to request a roll call vote. Whether, and in this situation, we will get a roll call vote because remember what I just said? The group who was more devoted to secrecy said you have to have 5 directors to support it. If you look at the number of sponsors on this motion, there are 5. And the 5 was insist on a roll call vote. So you will know after the meeting, and you see the minutes, who voted to honor the commitments, who voted to stick with the decision in July. So at least on this point, you'll get to know. But to go back to Mark's question, will it pass? It ought to pass. We can afford to honor our commitments. Is there a financial impact? Yes. We're going out of business? No. But the group, if you look at how everyone voted in July, look at how many of the votes were 10-5, 11-4, 12-3. If you look at those votes, because at that time, roll call votes were still allowed, you'll see a group that is consistent in voting as a block. It's not a sin in voting as a block. But the point is that group is the ones who also decided to not honor the contracts with the members. So I hope it passes. We intend to argue that it should. Whether it does is up in the air at the moment. Any questions, complaints?
We got one. We're not sure if it's a complaint or question. Stand by. Hang on, it's Dean. I know it's going to be renewing on a website.
Talked to you several times.
You didn't make Mark walk faster.
Yeah.
Oh, Dean Birch, KK6IPL.
Hi, Dean.
Yeah, you were here before in person, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
And you talked about a $50 million endowment and how the ARRL is supporting clubs. They know clubs are their lifeblood, and that you were actually going to give money, a kickback to the clubs for new members and for renewals.
Correct.
When my ARRL membership was up, I went to the webpage and I looked for how I could put in, I was associated with SCARS and they could get, part of my membership. So I came to Mark and he gave me a form that only a lawyer could understand and said, fill this out.
This was written by a lawyer.
Yeah, so I watered it up and threw it in the garbage can. I did not renew my membership. The only reason I'm a member now is because a good friend of mine here in the club gifted me a membership. But when it comes time to renew and I start getting these little emails from ARRL, I'm going to go to the webpage. And if I can't click on a button and give my credit card information and say I'm associated with SCARS and they're going to get this much from my renewal, I'm probably not going to renew again. So where is it? Because you said they were working on a webpage, and that's what Mark tells me. They're working on it. Well, how long has it been? A year?
They're still working
$50
on
million endowment. I think they could work on it a little bit faster.
Let me take this in pieces and then I'll directly address it, Dean. The endowment, if I said 50, I apologize, because it's actually at the time we were talking, I think it was about 41. Because the market changes, it's a little bit less because we're invested in the market. The market's gone down, it's back up, and it's back up in our favor. Of that endowment, 15 million of it is what we call unrestricted funds. The balance those funds were donated by multiple people for specific purposes, and the use of the money is restricted to those purposes. So although we would want to spend the money to clean Wayne's fuzz in his pocket, we're limited to 15 million to do it. And I'm picking on Wayne because I like Wayne. I love his idea. He's going to give us his fuzz. So we have about 15 million round number that we can spend on anything we want to. That doesn't address itself why we don't have the fix. I and some others have argued that, as I said, the clubs are the lifeblood of the organization. They are. And that the original program of giving a commission to the clubs for obtaining ARL membership renewals through the clubs was inadequate. And we did approve a change. And Mark, tell me if I get it wrong. If someone walks in off the street, not an ARL member, and they renew through the club, I think it's $5 now. If it's a member of the club that renews, I think it's still $2. Mark, did we raise that to $3?
I think it was, yeah, I think it was raised to 3 and 5 is what the numbers are. But yeah.
Now, the process in doing that before was just staggeringly cumbersome. It made a great deal of cause the clubs to go through a great deal of effort to be able to record Dean as a renewing ARL member that renewed through SCARS. And what we tried to do was modify the paperwork, and to modify how the money would be accounted for and how it would be paid to the clubs. That was streamlined. Unfortunately, Dean, as you pointed out, the paperwork is still there. What we had wanted was for the website to be modified so that when you went to the website, you could renew your membership and tag that renewal to SCARS. The website is, I won't use that term. Let's just say it's a disaster. It was a disaster when it was originally created. Well, that's another story we'll talk about another time, but we have needed overhaul the website and a lot of the programs, but we've never had an IT department that could do it. When Tom Gallagher walked in 2016 as CEO, the first day he was there, he said, one of our major problems was the lack of an adequate IT development department. We still don't have one. So although we had recommended that the employees, the staff, modify the website, one, is difficult to do. That's not the excuse by itself. But the resources to do that have not been devoted to solving this problem, Dave. We can argue it should be a priority. I think so. But in talking with the last IT director before he resigned, was that he had a long list of IT projects that he didn't have enough personal time or enough people to help him with to get through. There needs to be a major revamp of how we handle intellectual matters and technology within the league. There's not any support for it. Some of the things that we need to have done could be done by calling Mark Klein because Mark knows a group of people around Oklahoma that not only can spell cat, they can program it. If you go across the country, we have massive, truly varsity league talent in the IT area. Mickey Baker's the director of Florida. He's got a team with him that he thinks could work on this, but offers of volunteer help have never been or have not been accepted. Organizing volunteers is kind of like herding cats, as Mark will tell you, but it can be done. If you're putting them in charge of the entire IT department, that wouldn't work. If you were to assign them a project, it could be done. Can the web page be modified? Yes. Is it simple because of the structure? It's hard-coded. It's not running off a CMS platform. It's a hard-coded website. So it takes substantial effort to fix it, but it can be fixed. But those resources don't exist, Dean, and they have not been allocated to fix the problem. It's annoying because it should be easy for the clubs, for a member. I mean, the member shouldn't have to fill out a piece of paper, and the club shouldn't have to submit paperwork. We ought to make it easy. I mean, that's just the principle on the web. Keep it simple, stupid. But it hasn't been done. And I don't see this going to get done anytime soon because we don't have the resources. We have not had the resources allocated to it. And I think with the resignation of our last IT director, I don't think we have the internal resources with the other projects to address it, but it needs to be done. It's a major irritant. And if you talk to any of the officers of your club, they'll tell you how irritating it really is. So on behalf of the league, I'll apologize that it hasn't been fixed, but it's not because a group of us haven't been trying. So I appreciate that you're a member. I will thank whoever donated your membership. That's a good and kind thing to do. And I would hope, and annoyed as you are, that you would still remain a member. We need good people. I mean, after all, we're stuck with people like Mark, but we'd like to have some people like you, Dean, as good people.
You were talking about Clayton, right?
No. Klein.
I did not designate the two, did I? Yeah, okay. Any other questions on any subject? Because we'll move on to those stuff you want, but ask any question you want about anything.
I have another question about the magazine issue.
Yes, sir.
As I understand it, if you renew after where you won't be getting the magazine, you don't pay the extra 25. You still have access to all the digital formats of the different publications of ARL. Is that correct?
That's correct. If you're a brand new member or a renewing member, under the changes made in July, you will have digital access to all the publications, the Contest Journal, QEX, On the Air, and QST. The platforms for each of those that we have currently that permit you to read them are cumbersome, and they're annoying to use. If you like doing things digitally, they're annoying to use. There have been discussions of converting all the magazines when they're posted for review by the members to PDFs. One of the arguments against that is that, oh my God, if we put up a PDF, you know about that Lord Colson, don't you? You know what he's going to do. He is going to share his PDF copy that he downloads with Lee Greenleaf, which means Lee doesn't have to be a member anymore. There are a lot of organizations that have gone digital with their publications, and they are PDFs, and they haven't gone broke yet. Would it be possible if we made them PDF and downloadable for someone to give it to a non-member and thus avoid them having to join to get the QST? It could happen. I don't think it's going to be rampant, and I don't think it's going to result in the loss of half our membership. But the purpose of, if we're going digital, then we need to make it easy for the members. Is there a better platform than the one we're using? That's possible. I haven't heard a report that there's an investigation to consider changing platforms at this point. It may be under investigation, but it hasn't been discussed. But the answer to your question is yes, you get access to all the magazines.
Thank you for that answer, John. Any other questions? Any other questions for John? You got him here. If you got a question, ask now.
You realize if you don't ask questions, each one of you will have to give Mark Klein $5 when you leave the room.
Awesome. They put their hands in their pockets and they're holding onto their wallets. I think the next thing that I've heard big things are on this are the motion, the 46 bylaw 46 changes. Any details on how that may affect what happens?
Well, what will happen is one thing, and what will happen in the meeting is another. If any of you don't know what bylaw 46 is, what we're shorthanding in discussion is bylaw 46. There's a motion is posted on the website. It's what I referred to on the website is the total line motion. I'm going to post on the website a discussion of the background of this. We'll discuss it here, but I'm going to put it in writing. And in it, I quoted a line out of the Buffalo Springfield song, "It Works." The lyrics are, "Cross the line, and a man comes and takes you away." This is designed, bylaw 46 it's 11 pages long. It refers to multiple documents not attached to the motion, some of which you can see, some of which you can't. Some of the documents it refers to are secret documents. The people who are promoting it, I mean, there's a town hall with the New England director and I think the Pacific director. In it, if you attend it, you hear their reasons for, we must have this, it's in our interest. You also hear some things that have not been shared with the board. What will also be posted to the website is the report of the first vice president, Mike Racebeck. Mike Racebeck, I think, became a vice director about the time Moses got his bottom dried off. He's been, I think, a vice director for 25 or 29 years. Very respected member of the board. He is an attorney, although he's a practicing software guy. He works for a major corporation in their IT department. Read his report. There are some parts of it that I don't quite agree with, but I agree with almost everything he says. What he discusses is the existence of what he refers to as a shadow board. It's basically roughly, quote, 11 members of the board that have been working on certain matters to the exclusion of the rest of the board. Is that by itself a legal sin? It is not. If a group within SCARS decides that they think it's something important, they get together and work on it and start soliciting votes to do something, that's fair, that's reasonable. I'd say the same thing about what Mike refers to as the shadow board. The sin that Mike talks about is not that there's a group of people within the board that are like-minded. What he talks about is they have been working in secret on matters that affect the members and the organization. If you listen to the reasons, and I'll talk about what he does in a minute, but they'll tell you that it doesn't change anything. Yes, it does. They'll tell you the lawyers told us to do it. There's a problem with that because the rest of the board has received nothing from any lawyer that says, oh my God, Connecticut law requires you to do this. There's nothing in Connecticut law that I've seen that requires us to come up with what they're calling, I forget what they actually call these things. The shorthand is called a code of conduct, but excuse me, it's not a code of conduct. Bylaw 46 is created to control and to enforce that control with punishment. And hold on just a second. I've got a dry cough and I was trying not to cough in your ear. If you look at bylaw 46, it incorporates, back up, so the entire motion has three parts. One, it says motion to revise bylaw 46. The other is the actual revision of 46. And then it references another document. There is an analysis of this written by Fred Hopengarten, K1VR, that is running around the web. We're going to post that to the West Coast website. He is an attorney. He is the author of the intent of zoning book that the league sells. He's a brilliant lawyer. He's gone through and analyzed it from a legal standpoint, and when you read it, you realize how badly drafted. I mean, it's incompetently drafted. The bylaw 46 refers to documents that you can't see. It incorporates documents into the bylaw that are not difficult, that you would normally not look for. It's what it incorporates a set of documents called standing orders. The league has bylaws, but it also has what's called standing orders. And these are not a bylaw category, they're just operational rules. Those are being incorporated into this. What's known as the director workbook, which is not available to the members, is incorporated. And as Fred points out, bylaw 46 is a bylaw requires either 10 or 12 votes to amend if it passes. But the documents that it references require only a majority vote. The short version of bylaw 46 is it states that if Mr. Colston, Mr. Clayton is the director, violate the standards it references, which aren't set out in detail, a complaint can be filed with the Ethics and Elections Commission. The Ethics and Election Commission is appointed by the president, 3 members. That group, that committee, may, if they decide that Lloyd, or Mark, has committed some egregious act, they have not acted in the best interest, fill in the blank. They have posted something on social media that is offensive. They can make a recommendation that actions ought to be taken against Lloyd or Mark. Bylaw 46 mentions 2 classes of recusal, but it also mentions that they can declare the directorship vacated, meaning that you will go and take a pencil and go to page 15 of QST and erase Lloyd's name. There may be people in the room who want to erase Lloyd's name, but Lloyd as a director should not be erased through this method. If you argue that any organization has the right to police its officers and directors, that's true. But your rights, if you are a corporation, are often defined by law. Connecticut non-stock law deals with non-stock corporations, which is what the ARL is. There is a critical provision, because remember, these statutes are written both to guide and control the organization. And there is a provision, let me make sure, it's that 33-1088, 1088. It specifically addresses how do you remove a director of a non-stock corporation if that director is elected by the members. Only the members may remove the director. Now, you may argue that's not a good law, but it is Connecticut law. If you look at bylaw 46, it purports to alter the law. It says that the E&E, if you violate any of these vague conditions, and if you go through and read Open Guard's analysis, and you go through and try to read bylaw, all 11 pages, bylaw 46, there's no really clearly defined standard. Everything's subjective. So if it's subjective, that means that Wayne and Stephen can decide that what Lloyd did violates it, file a complaint, and if the members of E&E agree or they don't like Lloyd, which is a high risk, then I'm not picking on Lloyd because people don't like him. I'm just saying there's a high risk within the board sometimes of people not liking others. Then they can recuse him or they can vacate his position. You can't vacate a position under Connecticut law. If you ask them to explain that, they have not explained how they think they can get around Connecticut law. This has been attempted in the past, and I'll talk about the past in just a minute. And every time they've attempted to remove a director by action of the board, it's been stopped based on Connecticut law. But this group is not listening. If they believe they have a legal authority, they haven't shared it with the board. I don't think they can find it because Connecticut law is crystal clear. So the motion itself violates Connecticut law. We as an organization, even if we are really, really unhappy with Lloyd Colson as the director, or Mark Clayton as the director, we don't need to be going out and violating the law and getting ourselves in a position where we can be sued. Because there's another provision of Connecticut law that states that if a corporation takes an act, it is not permitted by law to take. Any member, our director, may bring suit or may complain to Attorney General. I don't think we need the Attorney General in our laundry. But the motion isn't to create a guideline for the directors and for Lloyd, is how to act, how to best represent the members. I'm sorry, if Drew is a director, I'm going to count on Drew being a gentleman who knows right from wrong. Could Drew make a mistake? Yeah. Is it likely Drew is going to try and damage the organization? I don't think so. So, and the fact that Drew doesn't agree with Lloyd and Mark is how the board ought to do something. Dissent is the lifeblood of any organization. No organization survives, moves, or improves without dissent. Within SCARS, you have had disagreements over different policies. At the end, those disagreements are resolved. Often they have probably resulted in improvement or changes. And again, the majority controls. That's how it works. But this motion 46 is designed to eliminate dissent. Over the past couple of years, there has been a marked adverse reaction to people who have dissented. There have been what I consider threats against section managers across the country because certain section managers objected to the fact that their members, Drew, didn't receive the services they thought Drew should have received. And they suggested, requested, or demanded changes in how the league headquarters address those problems. Some section managers are very vocal in defense of their members. Mark is one of them. He'll stand up for interview anytime. He's not shy. There are other directors, or section managers, the same way, but there has been a resistance at headquarters and amongst some of the board about dissent. I think dissent's good. There have been people who aren't section managers. There are people who aren't directors who have publicly dissented, disagreed with, complained about, objected to actions taken by the board, by the employees, by the organization as an organization. Again, it's okay. If I'm not doing my job, please complain. I may not agree with you, but you're entitled to complain. You pay your money. But there has been a strong negative reaction to dissent. And if you read through all of it, and again, if you read it, you go, okay, why shouldn't we have some standards for people? Okay, that's fine. But if you read through this, you're going to have a hard time coming with objective standards. They're all subjective. What's the problem with that? It means on any given day, if Drew and Lloyd decide they don't like Mark as a director, they'll file a complaint. You go, he didn't do this. Who decides? Initially, two people on E&E decide. Then it goes to the board. If Lloyd is unpopular on the board, if Lloyd is an irritant because he dissents against the majority decisions, and we have people within the boardroom to fit that profile, then okay, you really don't like what he's doing. You can take action against him. The ultimate action is to remove him, which means that if Lloyd is the director, what you say, your votes don't count. It means who you voted for has just been kicked to the curb without your consent. And the Connecticut law says you cannot do that. But the motion is designed to control, to limit or crush dissent. If you want to say control dissent, use your own words. There is no reason for it. There are existing rules on how to deal with issues, that we have conflict rules. And if we have directors in the room who don't agree with me, I'm positive that their parents drowned the wrong child. I'm certain they have the same opinion of me, but as elected representatives of their divisions, they're entitled to have their opinion. They're entitled to advocate for what they think, and they're entitled to disagree.
John, is there something that we can do, people in this room or on the call, that can do to maybe express their opinions about how any of these are happening?
Well, thanks for stopping, because I keep going. Yes and no. What we had suggested in an email I sent out to the membership is, if you disagree with any of these proposed motions, I'm your director. I'm already opposed to this. So telling me you're opposed, I thank you, I appreciate it. But the only thing you can do as members is express your concern by writing to the other director's email or to the president. If you do so, like I said in the email I sent out to the board, be nice. I mean, they're doing what they think's right. I disagree, it's wrong. But tell them that. Your emails will not be well received. And let me take you back through the history of this. It's not the first time this has occurred. In the fall of 2016, the executive committee met. The executive committee is an elected subset of the board that operates between the board meetings. That committee recommended that a code of conduct be drafted and presented to the board. In January of 2017, a code of conduct was presented just like this one, within 30 days of the meeting, with no time for the rest of the board to discuss it, explore it. The same excuses were given. The lawyers told us we had to do it. It's necessary. We have problems. If you look at the minutes of the January 2017 meeting, all this is online. It passed by a 12-3 vote. The Atlantic Division, Tom Abernathy. The Southwest Division, Dick Norton, and the West Gulf Division at the time, David Wolby, voted no. What we said at the time was that it was outrageous. It permitted, one wouldn't let directors tell you what they did. It created conditions you could censor or remove any director for anything. The membership, this was released, by the way, the bylaws did not, the members didn't see this before it passed. Between January of 17 and July of 17, the members did learn about it. And there was enormous outrage. At the July 17 meeting, a group of us, I was one of the ringleaders on this, even though I was a vice director. We put together a group and we put a motion on the floor that would have repealed that code of conduct because of the outrageous nature of it. It wasn't clear in the board meeting if we had enough votes or if the people backing the code of conduct had enough votes. A compromise was reached, and this shows up in the minutes. Section 8 of that code of conduct, which prohibited directors from telling their members how they voted or how others voted, was, quote, suspended, which they eliminated. In the fall of 17, using that code of conduct, a group of people who were unhappy with a particular director censored that director. That director was Dick Norton. The basis for stating he had violated the code of conduct was false. It was trumped up. If you think my words are harsh, you should look at the July 2019 minutes. A motion was passed by, I think, 15-0, maybe 14-1, that reversed the censorship of Dick Norton, and it stated that the allegation that he had violated the code of conduct was unfounded. The censorship of Dick Norton had an enormous impact on the membership. Norton is a well-known, worldwide known DXer. And we lost a lot of money as an organization because people cut off donations, changed their wills. But it became worse. The group that was backing this control code of conduct came to the board meeting in January of 2018 with even worse proposals. If you look at the minutes again of January 18, you'll see what's noted is EC 1 through 11. David Norris, the director, and Delta Division was leading the effort on that. EC stands for Executive Committee. If you look at those 11 proposals, some of them are benign, some of them weren't. They made the code of conduct worse. There were 6, I believe, motions filed by the Hudson director, Cinco. They were even more outrageous. If they'd passed, it would have been possible for, and Lee, let me take your question just a second. I see your hand. I won't forget. The board could have declared that Lee's membership was canceled without notice, without cost. Why were they proposing that? How do you get rid of directors? If you can't remove them under Connecticut law, how do you get?
You vote them out. You vote them out.
Well, no. The proposed amendments went further. If you want to be a director or a section manager, you have to be a member of the league. So if I cancel your membership, you no longer qualify. It was a slick way to remove a director, get around Connecticut law. If they didn't like what you were doing, they just canceled your membership as a director. They worded it so they could cancel any membership without warning, without cost. That's how outrageous some of this stuff was. Again, I was involved in the group that was organizing to stop this. We put together enough support at the January 2018 meeting that we forced that group trying to pass EC 1 through 11 and the Cinco motions to withdraw them. In fact, there's a statement by David Norris that explains the withdrawal. Robert's Rules of Order doesn't permit you to explain what you did, but in order to persuade them to drop them and save face, in fact, I'm the one who wrote what David put in the record as to why they withdrew, which is fine. We want them withdrawn. The membership was even more outraged. The result was in the summer or the fall of 2018, that outrage of both the censorship of Dick Norton and the outrageous code of conduct led to the election of 4 new board members based upon that outrage. In January 2019, that means the group of us who were opposing these outrageous actions had enough votes. Not only do we have enough votes to reverse the code of conduct and other things, we were able to persuade, I think, 10 to 12 members of the board, including the opposition, that what had been done was wrong. If you look at the January 19 minutes, the first thing that we did was to repeal the code of conduct. We fired our general counsel, did a number of other things to right the wrongs. In July of 19, we reversed the censorship on Dick Norton. So this has been done before. The reasons for doing it in January of 17 are the same they're using now. It's not really a change. We have bad actors we need to clean up their conduct. We need to have standards that everyone can look at and follow, but they went overboard. And again, they said the lawyers made us do it. So we've survived from 19 until now with no quote code of conduct. The code of conduct, by the way, does exist. If you look at, I think it's Connecticut Law 1104, it sets the requirements, says the directors must take actions they reasonably believe in the best interest of the corporation. That's pretty good. And again, I was picking on Drew earlier. Drew knows what's right and wrong. Drew's not going to post pictures of the puppies or the sheep and him out in the backfield up on social media. He's not going to, he laughed. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. People qualified to be elected know right from wrong, and we don't need to tell them how to do it. But this, after 7 years, we're back with a code of conduct. Again, it's called something else, but it's designed to do what the previous one did: punish dissent. The first one was designed to punish dissent. Who were they targeting in 2017? They were targeting Dick Norton, and they were targeting West Gulf, because the West Gulf at the time was objecting to the representation that a piece of legislation called ARPA was beneficial. We argued it wasn't. We're back where we were. Deja vu, all over again. It's a terrible motion. Is it going to pass? What I understand is that they may have 11 votes, at least 10 to pass it. Again, who are they? It's a shadow board that Mike Racebeck referred to. When did this happen? How did it happen? In the spring of 2023, a committee called the Legal Structure Committee, which is charged with looking at bylaw changes, heard that Director Zugelbaum was drafting what he called a code of conduct. The committee asked Director Zugelbaum to share a copy of it with the committee so we could share it with the rest of the board. He refused. The request was made far more strict. He refused. He said, it's not finished. I'm not going to give it to the July board meeting. We're not going to do it. We'll do it later. No. Since at least March or April of 2017, this group of directors have been working on meeting and drafting this outrageous document. How do we know it's existed before? Because we've talked to directors who've told us, I have seen this document. They said this in the summer, I think in June. And they said, one director described it as a Nazi document. It really is. But each of the directors who had a copy declined to share us a copy because they said in order to look at it, we had to promise we wouldn't share it. I mean, we had this conversation in Dayton, sitting down with the president and Director Norris, because I expressed then a concern that this was going to turn out poorly. And I asked Director Norris, have you seen a copy? He said, yes, I have. I said, are you permitted to show me a copy? He went, no, I'm not. So how is it in the interest of you as members or the rest of the board for a group to spend 10 months drafting a document that they suddenly spring on the board 30 days before? They don't share it to members. When the fight over the previous code of conduct occurred, it was so disruptive. The board made a decision that anything of this nature should be shown to the members 60 to 30 days before it comes up for a vote. This was not done with this motion. Why do they not want you to see it? Because it's outrageous. But
John, can we hit go for a wrap and hit Lee's
yeah,
question?
let me stop. Lee, you had a question.
John, first of all, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it. From what you're saying, if this passes, I, for one, am paid up for 3 years, will seek to probably have that paid back to me. What these people are doing is detrimental to, I think, the organization as a whole. Why it's incorporated under, the laws of Connecticut, I understand. But being that the organization is national or international, the more sensical, if you will, rules should be either United States law or international law, and not just Connecticut law. I think that what these, and what you're saying to me is that this same group of people are doing the same thing over and over again. Why aren't they being brought up on the charges that they're charging other people with? And lastly, my interest is Aries, and I don't see as much as I'd like to see happening with Aries. Thank you.
Let me take Aries last. All corporations in the United States exist as a matter of law. And because of the federal system, that which the federal government was not granted is left to the states. So the states set the rules for business organizations in their states. So under the legal system we have in the United States, corporations exist under the law of their states. And so we're bound by Connecticut law. There may be merit in looking at an actual law, but the way the United States is set up, we're stuck at the moment with state law. And I hope we don't lose you as a member, by the way. The group that is doing this isn't the same group. The board is rolled over. There are 2 members of the current board, Director Boner and Director Norris, who were on the board in 2017 that promoted the last code of conduct. I believe everyone else who's a director was not a director at the time. They may have been vice directors, but they may have been in support of it, but they weren't in the front row voting. So I believe there are only two who were part of the previous group. Why haven't they been brought up? At some point, the league has to focus on business. We are hemorrhaging money. We had a multi-million-dollar loss last year. We had over $1 million loss the year before. I mean, that's part of the justification for going to printing QST to reduce our costs. We are not focusing on how do we right our financial ship by focusing on what I call pissing on somebody else's blue suede shoes. If someone in a room disagrees with me or angry with me, they need to come tell me. The board's going to vote either for the other person or for my views. And if in the course of that conduct, they refer to me as a fill in the blank, or I them, which I won't, or we raise our voices, that's called being an adult, folks. It's part of disagreement. I mean, there are directors with whom I've had disagreements, or they with me, look at the other way. And we have been extremely direct with each other. And I don't think we ever discussed the fact we couldn't identify our parents on the lineup, but our conversations were aggressive. We're friends. We disagreed. We'd probably disagree on those points again. But I didn't file a complaint against them. They didn't file a complaint against me. If you cannot be a member of a board and deal with dissent, you don't need to be on that board. And if you don't agree with, as I pointed out, someone on the board who disagrees with you, you don't need to be on the board. That's it. And this changes disagreement into punishment. Talk about Aries for a second. If I didn't answer your question, Lee, come back and maybe do it. Aries, the Merchant Communications Field Services Committee was created by myself and a group of about 8 other directors because we didn't believe enough focus, enough support was being given to section managers and to Aries. A motion was put before the board in July. Lee Cooper, since I wasn't there, put the motion on the floor. It proposed that we create a very organized, aggressive campaign to start promoting Aries every month within QST or the other magazines, and to start developing new materials to generate more membership in Aries. That motion was voted down. And it was sent back to the EC committee. And I'm on at least on that same Merchant Communications Committee. The motion is going to come back. It's one of the motions that haven't been posted yet. We have a meeting of the committee on the 18th. It is our plan to resubmit that motion, because our attempt to do it by persuasion with headquarters hasn't worked. Aries is an important program. People who want to participate in public service and emergency communications come into the league. I think 47% of new members come in for that reason. If they do that, we should provide a vehicle to permit them to participate, and that's Aries. So we're going to make another attempt to promote that.
Anybody else local? I guess anybody else local question here in the room? Another Dean's got another. Where's Clayton at? Did he run?
Clayton?
Oh, no. Rodney's going to go help him out. Hold on. Dean's coming back. One more shot. Anybody else have any questions? We can.
Are you there? Okay. What I'm hearing you say is that, I can get behind the QST magazine going from physical to digital. I mean, the cost savings has got to be tremendous on something like that. But I also hear you saying that, my oldest daughter turns 46 today, and she's talked about getting her technician's license. I gave her the last copy of the QST I had, and you're telling me that now they've gone digital, they don't want me giving that copy to her. They don't want to make it easy to give it to her. They want to avoid PDF because they don't want people outside to see that information without paying you something for it. And that is the most stupidest thing I've ever heard. If they want to grow this hobby, make that information freely available. Download it, print it in PDF. It won't cost you anything. It'll cost me to print it out in PDF, and I can give it to whoever I want to try and interest them in this hobby. I can't even understand how the board could be behind something like that.
The concept of the PDFs is not really a major issue. It hasn't really been discussed by the entire board, but it has been proposed. But the objection of handing it out is one of the primary objections against going to PDFs. There's a conversion cost from our current program to PDFs. Again, it's a cost thing. It just, again, we don't have enough IT people to fix it at the moment. But your point is dead on. All of us give out copies of QST to people who may be interested. It's a very beneficial act. And the ability to give a PDF to someone who may be a member, I must say, may want to be a member, has an interest in amateur radio, that is a big deal. Will it convert everyone? No. But it gets the word out as to what we're about. And that reason alone, Dean, is a reason to go to PDFs. Make it easy for us to share what we are proud of. But unfortunately, it's not on the table at this point. Perhaps maybe we can get it done, but the opposition exists. We'll have to see what we can do. Go back to cost saving. Going to a digital QST does eliminate printing costs. Is it sufficient to solve the financial problems of the league? I haven't seen enough information to convince me that it does. I'm not telling you what, but it does reduce operating costs, which will help us in the short term.
Any other questions in the room or online? None heard.
Mark,
John.
let me answer a question you asked. How do people get the word out that they're opposed? Again, the email address for every director, vice director, officer is in page 15 of QST. A lot of people, based upon discussions in other divisions and within the West Gulf, have been sending emails to the other directors saying we object. Right now, I think you could argue that I'm not real popular with some of the other directors because they're getting emails from people outside the division. This happened in 2017 and 2018 because the same thing happened. All of us said, write your other directors. A lot of them objected that I don't have to listen to Lloyd Coachman. I don't have to listen to Lee Greenleaf because they're not in my division. My view on that is that you elected me to represent you from the West Gulf. That's my obligation. But the moment I took that job, and it goes to the purpose of 46, I am a director under a Connecticut corporation. I'm bound by Connecticut law. I represent everyone in the country. My focus is Oklahoma and Texas, but I'm obligated by law to represent the interests of everyone, which means every other director has an obligation to listen to the other members. So if you disagree or agree, either way, send an email. Tell them, just be polite. I mean, I think they're wrong. I think they're wrong for all the wrong reasons. But again, be polite. Tell them you don't agree. Word any way you want. Just don't be nasty about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John, and appreciate it. Have a good week next weekend, despite all of the chaos. Thank you.
Thank you for permitting me to come. If any of you have questions that you want to ask offline, feel free to contact me. You've got my email address and phone numbers.
Thank you very much. And for those of you that don't have QST, it's also at arrl.org/divisions, and it will show you all the same data that's on the QST.
Mark, one thing we didn't cover, let me cover it briefly.
Okay.
The legislative program.
Oh, okay.
The league has, in the past, avoided politics, meaning we don't get involved in passing legislation. In 2014, a following example of the West Gulf, the league decided to try and pass a bill in Congress that would eliminate private land use restriction. As you know, we've got PRB1 that says cities and counties supposed to reasonably accommodate amateur radio. The bill from 2014 went up to 2019. It was modified in a manner that was detrimental to the interest of amateur radio. But the bill passed the United States House twice on voice vote. It died in the Senate because of a particular senator who was opposed to it. In 2019, we withdrew that bill because it was badly written. It damaged amateur radio. And we spent the time since then until last year drafting a new bill that would, if passed, eliminate private land use restrictions on amateur radio. It means the HOAs can't prohibit amateur radio. We picked up a lead sponsor last fall, Bill Johnson out of Ohio. And we then picked up Joe Courtney, who is the congressman out of Connecticut. The bill was refiled in January. It's now noted as HR 4006. We've got, as of this morning, 9 co-sponsors on it. We've got a good chance of getting it passed. But we broadened the legislative program. We recommended, and the board agreed, to become more active. We filed a bill that was House Bill 3641, I think. If you follow what happens to the FCC, the league had been trying for some time to get matters or action taken by the FCC to benefit our members. Those haven't been, some of them were 9 years old. The FCC hadn't moved on them, so we filed a bill to acquire it to eliminate the symbol rate limit on data transmissions. The bill was carried by Debbie Lesko out of Arizona. The purpose of the bill was either pass it and compel the FCC to do something, or to get it to talk to us and persuade it to do it on its own. It worked in, I think it was September, after there was a June meeting of the Energy and Commerce Committee that was discussing the FCC, and what was discussed in that meeting was our bill to remove the symbol rate. The FCC worked with us, and in September, if I've got the dates right, they repealed the symbol rate. So that part of the legislative program worked beautifully. There are, right now, there's a proposal by the United States Forest Service to impose a $1,400 fee on all communications facilities in national forests. If it becomes law, we're going to lose every repeater site in every national forest in the country. We now have, I think, 7 senators who are working with us to insert language into the 2023 Farm Bill that, if passed, will eliminate that restricted or that proposed fee. But 4006 is a flagship bill. That's the one we're really pushing to eliminate private land use restrictions. We have 2 lobbying firms behind us working on it. It's going to Congress is time consuming. Nothing happens immediately, and it's expensive. There will be a major issue, I think, at the board meeting as to whether or not the board will decide to fund the legislative program for the continuing year. There's a disagreement with regard to that at the moment. So, and by the way, I'm chairman of the legislative committee. We've got 5 other members on it. Judge Stafford, the former president, Carl Lucenspab, David Norris, and Marty Pittenger are on the committee. So that's just where we are. You can call, ask questions later, because we're going to take up too much time to go into great detail. But the point is, we have a chance of passing that bill, which would eliminate these problems in the future. But we're going to have an issue at the board as whether or not the board will agree to keep funding it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the updates. Appreciate it.
And thank you for putting up with somebody who keeps talking. So
I understand. Thank you.
Dean, thank you for your questions. Lee, thank you for yours. And Drew and Lloyd, thank you for letting me pick on you during the meeting.
All righty. Thanks, guys. John, you're welcome. John, you're welcome to stay around or retreat as you wish. I think we're going to do a break, 5-minute break here. Is that the plan? And come on back.
With everyone's permission, I've got some other league matters I've got to take care of. But again, if you have any questions, complaints, feel free to contact me. I'll blame it on Mark Klein.
Yep. We appreciate your time. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, John. Check your text. I sent you one.
Will do, sir.
Very good. If you're looking for more information, front page of the SCARS website has the link to the motions and Fred Harpen Gardens document. So if you want to do that while you're breaking, you can do that. Thanks.
So let's take a 5-minute break. Thereabouts. Let's start the business meeting about 11 o'clock. Okay, let's get going, guys and gal. Want to remind everybody one more time, Stephanie's in the back of the room taking orders for the signs and name badges. All right, let's start with introductions. Guest, let's start with guest. You're our first guest. And your name and call sign, please.
Well, in the 70s, I was employed Carroll and I used Hammer for the CB. But I'm looking for information on GMRS and how all this stuff is tied together.
We've got a lot of information about that. Our webpage is the best place to start. Any other guests? Let's start with the front row.
Hi, I'm Gage Lloyd. I have no call sign. Visiting today to learn more about radios and interested in getting started. Seth Rogers, along with him, same. They'll just here for information and learn.
I am Mike Prince, KJ5CHD.
Welcome all. Let's start with Mark Klein and let's
Go around the room. I'm Mark Klein, N5HZR.
Mark, N5ATQ.
Dave.
Dwayne, A5KD. Mike, KD5.
Let's start. Aubrey.
Aubrey, KF5BJH. David, KF5QML. Peter, KK6IPL. Wendell, ULU5, David, 85FR. Ken, K8WGE. Kalen, WX5MOR. Bill, KU5M. Larry, W5LH. K5. K5SOF. K0. K5IPR. From N5ATQ. David, K5ATD.
I'm Rodney, KF5UZA, and on Zoom, we have Bob.
Yeah, KF5NQV, Bob.
Steve. Steve is
Lee, Whiskey 5 Hotel Lima Golf.
Al.
Rodney, we can't see you or hardly hear you.
Go, Chris.
Chris, K5JZN.
Ken.
Ken, K5HFE.
Wayne.
This is Wayne, KK5IO.
Drew.
K4OWX.
Welcome, everyone. Lee, can you hear us any better now?
Yes, sir. Can't see you though, but I can hear you.
Don't know about the seeing.
All we have is the static picture of Mark Klein.
I'm sorry.
Me too.
Chris, you want to give us a short, brief minutes?
If you'll start with Larry, because I'm trying to move locations real quick.
Okay. Let's start with Larry's report.
Everything going on, I forgot to get
The reports to
So the simple things over the last year, we were, well, I don't have page 2. Over the last year, we were in the profit of $853. Is how we ended up last year. Last month, had net income of $107.23. So all in all, and I've moved to another $500 to a savings account. So we have $1,400 and $1,417.62 in the checking account, $24,064.22 in savings, and $169 in petty cash. We did make $56 and something, I think it was, in savings, I mean, the interest on the savings account over the last year overall. So anybody have any questions?
Our current assets at $25,651.34. $800. Oh, I don't know.
536.
Okay. I did not email this to Mark, but we'll put it in front of the camera. Maybe. Yeah. Anyway, this is our current budget for this year. And those online can see it much better than the ones here.
No, we can't see a thing. Oh, now we can.
So proposed membership dues, $2,500, donation $500, sale of equipment $100, for a total of $3,100. And if you look at our spring picnic, $300, fall picnic, $300, summer field day, $600, VE testing supplies, $200, tower insurance, $150, and then proposed to have a table at all the different Ham Fest. Elmer Night supplies, $600, outreach expenses, $500, and the Christmas party tip, $200, for a total of $3,100. So I will take a motion from the floor to pass our budget, or any discussion. Do I have a second? Motion made by Galen, seconded by Mark Clayton. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you all. Now, is Chris ready for the minutes?
Yeah, let me pull that up real quick.
Don't let her trick me.
Okay.
No.
So last month, I had them up and they closed on me. Okay. Here we go. Last month we had 30 members present in person and 6 on Zoom. We had a moment of silence for all the silent keys, recognizing Dave Thompson, N5AUS, who had passed away. the month prior. VE report, we had 4 new techs and 2 upgrades to amateur extra. Lee gave a presentation over Go Kits. And then we had several announcements. The Hospital Radio Network canceled meetings in December and January, and our next meeting will be third Thursday of February. Elmer Knight was not meeting over the Christmas holiday break. And then had an ARRL update from Mark Klein with pretty much everything covered in the presentation by John Stratton today. And with that, the meeting ended at 11:18.
Thank you. VE report. Ed.
Minutes last month. Mark, you can pull the page up or not, but we had 5 testees. We had 2 new techs, 2 upgrades to general, and 1 upgrade to amateur extra. Our next test session will be on Thursday, February the 1st, 6:30 p.m. here at the fire station. We had 2 new techs. Mark, he'll pull the page up here in a moment. But we had 2 new techs, 2 new upgrades to general, and 1 upgrade to amateur extra. And there are their call signs. Billy's from Slaughterville, I remember that much. So I haven't seen him at the meetings. But that is the group. They all left happy.
Thank you. Cora report. Mr. Klein. Go ahead and do an ARRL.
All right. I'm not going to be as long as John. Promise. First, I'm going to start off with, we've got 3 of our folks that are in severe medical distress at this point. Phil Sennett, you may or may not know, suffered a fall and is at the ICU in Norman Regional Hospital. They fixed the initial problem, went back to do some more work on nerve damage, and he's back in the ICU, doesn't need any visitors. However, I have a card for all 3 of the folks involved, and I would like to send it around. And if you know the people, feel free to fill the card up. If you don't know the person, feel free to just put your name and call sign, or just put your name down. I'm sure they will love to see that come zipping by. The second one is just a reminder that Peter Core has suffered a stroke in January. He is in Singapore at his family home at this point, recovering. Still has loss of movement in the left side, left hand, left leg, but is supposedly doing well. Third one is Gary Skaggs. You may or might know, was a big member here back from the early 80s, mid 80s, till now, moved down to Harlingen, Texas area, to Boca Chica area, and suffered a massive heart attack Friday. He is doing well at this point. He had a ischemic stroke Tuesday night right before surgery. So his Wednesday surgery was canceled and moved till Friday, which was yesterday. Long surgery to do quadruple bypass. Allegedly, it was very plugged, is what his email said. Surgery was yesterday. His daughter last night said that he was sedated and intimidated. I think she had a spelling correction in there wrong. I think intubated, I think, is the word they were looking for. but he is recovering at Harlingen from that event. So if you please write that on your cards as they go, send the pen around, Mark. Just write that on the cards. You'll notice that one of them is a Smart Aleck card, and that one's for Gary, and you'll see it when it goes around. Second of all, that's the medical report for the day. The Cora report. Cora is a Central Oklahoma Radio Amateurs. Our group is part of that group. The Cora folks put on 2 Hamfests, one in Oklahoma City in July, one in Ardmore in October. And we send 3 representatives plus me, as I'm a president of that group, to make that happen. We got a lot of the representatives in the room. Everything's going well. Our first meeting starts off this February. The Hamfest season started last week. Mark and I and a couple others went to Shakota, where they had a Hamfest out there at the Granite Stone Cowboy Church. Never heard those words all used in that order before, but that was kind of fun. There was what, probably 80 folks, Mark, somewhere in that range. About 80 folks were out there, had a good Hamfest. That starts our season. The next one's going to be in Elk City in first part of March.
March 2nd.
March 2nd. First part of March. See if you say the first part of March. It's like, okay, whatever. The next one that comes up is going to be at the big one in Claremore, Oklahoma in April 6th and 7th. And that's up at Rogers County up there. That's a big Hamfest in the state. Oklahoma City is going to be next July in the Oklahoma City Community Center, OCCC, in middle or end of July. And in September, still don't know a date, in Enid is going to be either the second or third Saturday in Enid at a new facility there. So if you went to the Stride Center for the last 2 years, it was awesome. It was huge, but they found a bigger, better, not a bigger, smaller, better, cheaper place at the county courthouse. And then the final one's down in Ardmore in October. So Hamfests are a place where we all get together and buy stuff, sell stuff, flea market kind of thing. There are vendors there, and there's a lot of training and testing going on. ARRL stuff is, as John said, he hit it pretty hard. They're doing a lot of board meeting stuff, and they really are working on stuff they shouldn't be working on, but they'll get that straight. It is still the American Radio League, the only one that exists, and the only one that's out there. So if you're looking for a national organization, that's the group to do. We have Elmer Night here in this building every Tuesday evening from 6:30 p.m. till 9. So if you're wanting to learn new stuff, that's a great time to show up. We'll be happy to talk to the folks looking for new information after the meeting and get you all straightened up and go the right way. But Elmer Night's bigger, better, I don't know, 35 combined online and in the building the last couple of weeks, and been very active group going on there. There's always 5 or 6 things going on, and you never get to see them all, but a lot of cool stuff happens. So if you have a problem, if you have a concern, come bring it Tuesday night, 6:30 to 9 at this place. Anything else on my list? No?
Do you want to do an Aries report for net?
I'm not the net guy. Phil is the guy that does that.
Well,
usually.
Phil's not here today.
Yeah, who's going to do the Aries nets? Galen, you want to do it?
Okay.
Oh, okay, he'll do it later. Good idea.
So, Denny, would you do a Gossip Net, MacNet report?
Both of them, I guess. Gossip Net is on Tuesday evenings at 8:30 following the Aries Net. And again, where you can talk to anything or about anything you like. And the MacNet is every morning except Sunday at 9 o'clock, where you can again check in and talk about anything you like. Come join us. We kind of have fun at that. It runs the Gossip Net or the Aries. The MacNet often gets up in the 35, almost 40 check-ins from time to time. So anyhow, come join us.
All right. Galen.
Marathon too. Well, in that case, let me have the Okay, so the Aries Net is every Tuesday evening at 8 o'clock on the VHF repeater. Okay. Generally have somewhere between 28 and 35 check-ins. It's a chance to practice your VHF talking, making sure that your radio is programmed right. Every once in a while, we throw curves and have you go direct or over to the UHF machine just to make sure we have everything programmed properly. And should we have large-scale emergencies, it's a good thing to check in on the net and do that. So you want me to do spotter training too? What's the date? Because I don't. Okay. February 20th, National Weather Center down on South Campus. is this year's Storm Spotter Training presented by the National Weather Service. It'll be in the auditorium. I believe it starts at 6:30. That training is the only one in the metro area, combined with Oklahoma County and McLean counties, Cleveland County. Spotter training is a requirement if you want to participate with the emergency management folks, either in Norman or in Moore, and it should be regardless. There are some online ones, but you just can't duplicate online what you learn in person by being actually at the Weather Service. So let me try and persuade you if you're interested in spotting. February 20th at the Weather Center. And by the way, next month's program here is about emergency services and spotting. So we'll cover it there too. And you want me to do the marathon?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to put a different hat on here.
Question about storm spotter training.
Go ahead.
Do I understand that attending the training online does not qualify for Aries storm spotter?
I did not quite say that, but in person is preferred if you're planning to spot. I know that way too, that I know that for the city of Moore, by the way, for those of you who don't know me, I'm also the director of emergency management at the city of Moore. And our spotters are required to attend training at least once every other year. That also fulfills a requirement we have to maintain our recognition as a storm-ready community. Norman, I believe, is also a storm-ready community, so they should have the same requirements. And I don't know about Grizzle, but I don't pencil whip that. Either you come to training or you don't. If you want to be part of the team, you train. So, Al, did that answer your question?
Not really. I think that I read in a previous announcement that online training does not qualify. And so if that's the case, then that makes a difference about whether or not I will attend the in-person training.
Can I add something?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, in Norman, you have to have the online training or in-person training once every 2 years. If you plan on being more active, we ask that you take the advanced training as well, which is normally only offered online. So that's how we work it, at least for Mr. Grizzle.
Okay. Again, the in-person's always preferred, but the online is available and it does officially count. So, yes, sir. It's all the same. Well, it's National Weather Service. Our office, the Norman Forecast Office online that would be the only one I would accept. Now I don't speak for anybody else, but I think it's up on it's up here and so on, and the ones that say webinar are the online versions. And I don't know who our presenter is yet this year. I have the schedule, but I don't have the personnel yet.
And you can go to any county if you wish. If you can't make the Norman night, you can go to a different county.
Yeah, but the next closest one is like Guthrie. I think
I drive a Prius. I don't care about.
I was going to say Seminole or
gas.
somewhere. Ada, I guess this year. So anyway, set spotter training. If you have questions, give me a call or give Grizzle a call, and we'll get you squared away. Mark, you want to bring up the marathon? Changing hats this year. The Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon is in late April. We'll have the dates up here in a minute, 27th and 28th. Did I screw that up? Anyway.
No, 27th, 28th.
Okay. Well, I thought I changed the dates, but apparently not. 19,000 participants, 19,000 people running through the streets of Oklahoma City and Nichols Hills and a couple of the burbs up north. That takes an awful lot of volunteers to support that, including about 90 to 100 amateur radio operators. We did it last year with a little over 70. Sure could have used more folks. And we could sure use you this year. Registration is now online. We'll get to that here in a second. You can see the start there of it. Mark, you want to advance, please? Again, it's in remembrance of the event that occurred in 2001. I'm sorry, in 90. Anyway, 95. I'm sorry. But they've been running the marathon since 01. Started small, and again, last year's event was capped at 19,000 runners, and we had a number of amateur radio folks that supported that. Mark, go ahead. Yeah, obviously those dates, one of those dates is wrong. There's events on Saturday morning that you can see, and then the big race is on Sunday with the full and the half. Go ahead, Mark. Amateur radio supports all sorts of things. We support the run, we support the medical, we support the moving of water and ice to the various spots. There's four relay exchanges. Is that right, Mark? Or five? Four. And those the crews there watch for runners coming in, call out numbers so their teammates can get the baton and move on. Go ahead. Yes, you can tell the emergency managers here because there's the org chart for just the communications units and just the amateur radio side. So there's the medical and the sag wagons, there's the ice and water net, and then each of the relays has their own net. We report to the communications unit leader, who is a professional communications specialist, state qualified communications unit leader for EMSA. And then he works under the overall comms unit liaison, who's Oklahoma City person. And we work under the police department. Go ahead. There's a quick look at the route. I don't know if they've changed. Haven't heard any changes this year. Haven't been to a meeting yet. So go ahead. There are some rules. Again, we're working with the police department, under the police department. They have some qualifications and some rules. You have to comply with all of the marathon policies. You have to wear your T-shirt, safety apparel. Weapons are not permitted. You will have a background check done. They do allow now backpacks and some other containers, but gosh, if a police officer comes up and wants to look at it, let him.
It says you have to wear a T-shirt. Are pants optional this year?
No, because you could wear shorts.
Yeah.
There you go. Come on, you got to be a runner, Mark. Go ahead. If you wish to participate, there is some equipment that you need to bring. You can see some of that. All of this will be put out again before the event. Go ahead. There's kind of a look at the communications plan just for the amateur radio. That was last year's, by the way. You can see there's various UHF and VHF frequencies that are used, various repeaters and so on. Go ahead. There's some various pictures. Top left is what's at the main medical tent. The top middle was at the Children's Reunification Center after the kids run. Top right is water and ice control. And the other two are just folks at med stations. All right, so here's the important part. If you want to play, there's the link to volunteer. Yes, I realize that's here. Hopefully some of you who participated in the past got an email yesterday with that link, so you can just click it direct. If not, you can always go to the main marathon site and follow the path that says volunteer. And yes, I want to volunteer. And when you do that, at some point, there will be a code placed in there, or ask for a password or a code, and use 20ham24. 20ham24.
Galen, I'll update the SCARS page, w5nor.org/marathon, with all of this stuff later today.
And it was probably in the newsletter too. Or
well, the details didn't make it.
Didn't make it? Okay.
Nope.
But anyway, use the code, because then that takes you to the specific page for the auxiliary communications, the amateur radio side, where you put in your call sign. If you want to work with a particular partner or work a particular location, it'll give you that opportunity as well. But like I said, it takes a lot of folks. We just announced the link yesterday, and we've already got, I think, 15, 16 people signed up. Again, this is a big deal, and it's not just a SCARS thing. It's not just a Cora thing. It's everybody. It takes a whole community, but there's a lot of work to be done.
And if you don't have to be skilled. If you're new, it's a great place to learn stuff quickly, and you'll be paired with somebody who knows what's going on.
Absolutely. Yes, there is a pre-brief. It's on the Monday before the event. The date escapes me, but is it the 22nd? Is
it the same Monday, like 5 days before? Or
no, it's 5 days before.
Okay.
I believe
we'll put that. It'll all be on the page.
The Oklahoma City Fire Training Center being an evening thing. And please, if you sign up, please come to the pre-brief. We had people last year that thought, oh, I've done this for 20 years. I know how to do it. Well, they didn't get the changes. And there were some significant changes last year, not expecting a lot of them this year. So, but anyway, please, 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 if you're interested in volunteering and using your amateur radio for good use to support the community, this is a great place to do it. Questions? Cool. Nope. No, I'm not either. I got one more thing. Mark, would you bring that other website up, please? Oh yeah, by the way, keep calm because you've read the comm plan. While Mark's bringing up the website, I noticed we have a gentleman back here that has a CERT hat on. And if you're interested in community emergency response training, the City of Moore Emergency Management announced just this week, we're having not one, but 2 sessions of CERT training. They're identical, so you can pick one or the other. The first one begins, I believe, February the 6th. And Mark's still trying to bring what? Oh, yeah, I was going to say, it looks like there's all sorts of problems going on over there. Anyway, so we'll have CERT classes starting in February, Tuesday and Thursday nights for 3 weeks. You learn all sorts of things like you learn about disasters, you learn disaster medical operations, a little bit of search and rescue training. We'll teach you how to use a fire extinguisher. What else is in there? Some disaster psychology, terrorism. Our versions are all taught by our professional responders and more. So the cops do the terrorism segment, fire department does the fire and utilities. Kevin and I do disaster stuff. And MSTAT does the, oh, there it is, does the medical stuff. So, and we culminate it with a full scale exercise at the end. So you'll get to do that. If February doesn't work for you, we have a session set up in April. Don't ask me why the emergency managers decided April was a big deal, but anyway, so we won't be home a single day in April, I don't think. And I've got one more that nobody knows about yet. May 2nd, there will be, I don't know what we're going to call it yet, but we're doing a safety fair at Central Park in our, they call it the station. It's our big recreation center. We're going to have a safety fair out there. So by the way, SCARS leadership, sir, yes, that is confirmed May 2nd. And we'll have SCARS out among hopefully a lot of other folks. So hopefully we're selling safety. Yep. Very good. Now be quiet. lot going on in the emergency management.
It's that time of year. Now, the 10-meter net.
You are cordially invited to join us for our 10-meter net. Doesn't require any training programs, or you don't have to wear a yellow vest. We just get on 10 meters and try to talk. There you go. No, Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. on 28.445 upper sideband. Come and join in.
That was a lot of information. And we will put our calendar of events on the website once I email that to Mark. But the events we have right now are not inclusive of everything. Mark Clayton is going to be in charge of our outreach. And the month of April is very busy. Green Country, our meeting will be the third Saturday that month because of Green Country, and then the Oklahoma City Marathon. So April is a busy month. We'll have a picnic in May and in September at the Denny Ranch. We always have a good time there. Any other business to come before the club?
Yeah, you forgot the DMR net.
Let's have a moment of silence for those hams that have passed away in the last month. And does anyone have any equipment for sale? Did Mark sell his radio?
Rodney? Rodney?
Go ahead. 2-meter 440 mobile, brand new. Small one, so you can mount it anywhere, whether it be in the house or in the vehicle. $40. Somebody interested, come see.
Our meeting next month will be February 11th. Don't forget about testing. First Thursday of every month, except for the month of July. It will be the second Thursday in July because the first one is July 4th. And Ed's afraid of fireworks.
He'll be drunk.
No fireworks allowed at the test session. Okay. I think we're adjourned then. Thank you all for coming. If you got any questions, let us know.
Can you not hear anybody
And thank
else?
you for Stephanie for coming.
Don't forget the cards for Gary and Bill.
You don't bring up cyber data anymore?
I had it, but we were going long anyway.
Oh, okay. I just curious.
Yeah, no. Maybe. No, there's no.